Hello, everybody. It's James the Bone Discoverer, dedicated to original peoples as always. And we've got two special guests on Raz Congo, Chase Johnson Lynch. Welcome to the show, my brothers.
What's up, bro?
Peace, man. Today, we're going to be speaking on some hidden knowledge. We might have some other guests coming on, but for now, we're going to get going. And hidden knowledge, so basically non-mainstream knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Some people are clued up, some people got their head stuck in the mud, and some people wake up later. We all get our wakings at different times. Some of us are born awake, some of us are divinely people, and some are just straight indoctrinated. But today, yeah, we're going to start it off anyway. So, hidden knowledge to me, I'm just going to deal with it. I'm looking at occult. I'm going to use this word occult because a lot of people misinterpret the word occult. Some people see the occult as everything. It's bad. It's demonic. It's all this one. Well, occult's just secret, basically. So sacred knowledge. You know, there was times in the ancient world when people had sacred knowledge that you got to be careful who you're sharing your knowledge with. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes knowledge can be kept amongst elites. Now, from my experience when I went to the Gambia back in 2014. I was speaking to someone out in the Kunta Kinte, went to visit the Kunta Kinte Island, and we had someone there. He was the guide, but he was really clued up, brother called Laman. And I was asking him about Vodon, spirituality, and all that one. And I said, how come there's so much negativity around voodoo, Vodon? And he said, it was all positive, but the kings made it negative. Now, what was
The media
interesting,
made it negative.
n-
The media made it negative.
now before the media, that
Mm.
so basically, if you look at like, well, why only if only elites have knowledge, this is what you got to understand, yeah. If only the hierarchy have knowledge, then why don't the under people, the common people, because let's be honest, we're the common people of today. Do you get what I'm saying? So but we can go and get access to certain knowledge if we want it. Do you get what I'm saying? It's all about how you explore and move around this planet and how you choose to study and what you choose to connect to. So what I mean is like when the brothers tell me out in Gambia that Spirit Devodon was positive until the kings made it negative. So this is before the European, by the way. So what where we're going with this is if you look at like example Mansa Musa, and he's a popular, very popular, especially in this day and age now, Mansa Musa. But he did. Do you realize how much he did for the people of Arabia, the Arab world? He done a lot. He give loads of gold away. He not saying he didn't look after his own, but he was basically doing it to keep the Arabs off his back. And the same with the Nubians, man. Do you know what I'm saying? Where they were all doing what they were doing, but later on, when the Arabs invaded Nubia, the Nubians dealt with them. Then later on, the Arabs kept on coming back. Then the elites of Nubia ended up supporting the Arabs and selling our own. And by selling your own, you just made slavery legal. So what I mean is like the king. So everybody had to vote on. This is where I'm going with it. Average people, common people, which they should have. So when the kings made it negative, that's where like you've got elite powers like you might see in Kemet, where they're trying to hide the knowledge from the common people. So with us, like we're the common people. So basically, we're out there studying, and however we choose to study is basically going to be the result of what you get back. So basically, I'm not going to go into much to it, but I was just basically saying that everyone had the knowledge in the beginning. That's where I was going with it. So I'm going to bring Raz into it now, yeah, on hidden
Respect, James.
knowledge. Yeah,
Yeah, good to be here, James, once again.
peace.
Chase, nice one. So, like, when you mentioned the occult before, yeah, all occult means is hidden,
Yes,
secret,
yeah.
and what we now know as eclipses, lunar eclipse, solar eclipses, were known
Mm,
as solar occults
yeah,
and lunar occults because when the sun or the moon would get in the way of each other and obscure each other,
yeah.
yeah. So my definition or our definition, hidden knowledge, you know what I mean? It's about the information, really, very important information, skills, insights being kept from the broader public, like you said, James.
Mm.
Restricted by custodians, elites, kings, whatever you want to
Yes.
call them,
Yeah, man.
priesthood, or
Mm.
simply knowledge that's difficult to articulate and transfer among each other. You know what I mean? Because you know, and Chase would know, when you're speaking of certain things, if people aren't really au fait with it, it's like a different language.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for black communities like us seeking hidden knowledge, it's about reclaiming our suppressed history,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and unlearning systemic miseducation that's been forced down our throats and restoring our cultural agency, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Understanding unwritten legacies, you know what I mean, from, the African oral traditions,
Yeah.
pre-colonial African kingdoms, yeah?
Mm.
And looking at the achievements of what we've done across the world from ancient days to the last few hundreds of years, creating the diaspora. Yeah.
That's right,
So
man.
for me, it's about reclaiming. It's about reclaiming our true identity. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
And I
man.
can't emphasize it any more than that. You know what I mean? Because if we don't have knowledge of self, and the colonizers know this, that's why we've been through the mill. If we do not have knowledge of self, then our history and our motives, which are going to be defined by others, and that's what's happened. So
Yeah,
we have
man.
to uncover the erased truths and put them towards high visibility for each other and the younger youths coming behind us, you know.
Yeah, man.
So respect, bro. It's great to be here. And
Yeah, man.
yeah, man, I'm humble. I'm just humbled by what you're doing. So give thanks.
Yeah, man.
And I appreciate you inviting me. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Respect, Adam.
Interesting. Anyway, the Reverend, I think your mic's muted, but yeah, if you could touch upon hidden knowledge.
Hidden knowledge is a treasure hunt. You know, that's why they say X marks the spot, right?
Mm.
Because we're all trying to figure out the X,
Yeah.
which is the mother. You know what I mean? Like that's what's hidden from everything is the mother. Is they want to keep everything hidden from us, which is the nurturing and the loving aspect of everything.
Mm.
And that's why they hide the mother and everything. The father is important too when the child. I mean, it's a holy trinity, but the knowledge that they are holding from us is just the woman. You know what I mean? That's why they give us so many different things that take away from us actually knowing that what the source is. Because they don't never want us knowing the source, but it's the portal. It's the only thing that we can have in this life that brings us into existence.
Mm.
But everything is against it. That's why you got to realize why they use the X in so many different things. That's why Elon Musk, he understands X. Just like in the portals of 11, 11, 11, 33. That's like KKK. They K represents the 11. So that's KKK, which is 33, which is 11, 11, 11. So they understand that consciousness of that feminine source, you know what I'm saying, is it's the leader of everything. So if you don't know what's leading you, you're gonna get misleaded. So the people that think they're leading, they're using all the things that, occult information, occult numerology,
Yeah,
occult information, but they're using it against us.
Yeah.
They're using our own energy against us. And we seem to forget that's why everything happens on 9/11. Everything, they understand. That's why they call a dog K9. Once you understand why they use these numerical things against us, then you understand that's really our source. It's like the Nazi sign. That's really our symbol of north, west, east, and south of the source.
Yeah, man.
So
Interesting.
yeah, everything is used against us. Everything is going backwards. Everything is backwards right now.
Yeah.
So everything we're trying to find, that's the occult information that we're trying to find. Everything that's used against us, everything that's backwards. So we're just trying to unlearn and relearn everything that we ever been taught. Because if we don't unlearn and relearn, then we're never gonna know where we're going because everything is being used against us.
Totally, brother. Totally, brother.
So,
Chase, anything to add on to this topic, brother?
Well, I mean, it's interesting you're starting with the topic of the woman and the power of woman. I mean, basically, it was called oh, see, man, I had it when uh,
Matriarchal system you're talking about. The matriarchal.
yeah, something like that. I'm talking about the divine feminine.
Oh yeah, divine feminine. Yeah, yeah, of
You
course.
know, where
Mm,
we're like, you know, as you say, the power is in the woman, and the
mm,
hidden history is in how powerful she was. You know, like there's a great moment in that movie, The Da Vinci Code,
mm.
where they show the divide between Jesus and Mary Magdalene,
Mm,
and like they show that they create a V. You know, the way they are holding hands, which
okay.
again is supposed to be a part of the divine feminine. Because what it is that they took away the power of Mary Magdalene. Like they called her a whore. They said, you know, like she was being stoned or whatever, and she was kind of like, even though she was with Christ, you know, some would say she was married to Christ, some would say she was Christ's, you know, concubine. You know, but the thing about it is the fact that she was still important to him as well as to all of us. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So it's kind of like denying the power of a woman has always been the case. You know, that's traveled down throughout history. You know,
mm.
so when you're talking about the divine feminine, you know, it is that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So.
yeah, totally, totally. And the reason why I started with occult knowledge because you get a lot of people who see it's negative, but I'm just exploring into like sacred science, sacred knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So, and then when you're talking about the brain, if you look at today now, they favor the intellect, the left part of the brain all the time, with the right intuition, creativity. But it's important to have them to be in balance, and that's what it was
mhm,
always about in balance in ancient times.
mhm.
Everything is divided now. Everything spirituality versus science. You know, everything is just opposite. But we understand the laws of opposite. But in order, you've got to have it balanced, and like they took away the balance of
As above,
everything.
so below. As
Yeah.
above, so below. So you got to understand
Mm,
when you're talking about the right and the left brain, you're talking about the sun and the moon.
yeah.
The sun, the sun represents, you know what I mean, the take charge in you, like you know what I mean, your essence.
Yeah.
And you know the logic part of yourself, where you're gonna be aiming towards trying to take care of all your goals, do everything you do. But the moon represents the more lunatary. What you know what I'm saying? It's like more of emotion, more of spiritual, more of being in thought.
Mm.
So
And that's
that's
It's
where
like
why.
your
reflection
right,
in
your
it,
left
bro.
brain represents.
It's
The
like
yin and the
reflection.
yang.
Just a quick one, right? You know, like they say the moon reflects the light of the sun. I don't know too much about that, but it does promote a reflective state. What you're saying, emotional and thinking and spirituality, meditating. Yeah.
That's why I brought up before about like elites as well. Now I know you said before, oh, that was the Europeans. They suppressed something even on another level, if you know what I mean. So when I was explaining before, and I was explaining about the kings, and then it didn't matter like what part of the world where you were in. Elites, when they tried to keep the knowledge to the few and the power to the few, and then decide later that, because I'm looking at, if you look at a foundation or something, I believe that we all had this divine knowledge from the beginning. This is where I'm coming from. And then obviously when people get into power, now, however you want to see that they got into power, whether it was through warfare or whether it was through people believing that they are divine to real. I ain't even trying to write that up. I mean, but if you are divine to real, you be doing it in harmony. But if you ain't doing it in harmony, then you know you're just some crooked ruler, just as we are today, because you can't just be holding the wealth, the knowledge, and everything just to yourselves. to the few to control the many. So I'm going to bring you into Raz, because like you just mentioned before about the priesthood and the select few, because it's the same to today, but it's the Europeans coming into Africa though, anywhere in the world, they just seem to just body bag it all, man. You know what I'm saying, Raz?
True, true. I mean, I think it's interesting because I think we've hit on things where um, you said it, when your brethren said it, when you was discussing about the voodoo, and it's like the kings corrupted it, the priesthood, the kings, church and state. And the thing is, right, obviously, Islam played a role, or the Arabs, let's say.
Yeah, that's later on.
Even before that, right?
Totally, yeah.
We must have had an implosion. There must have been a collapse of something to make us so defenseless.
Exactly.
Must have been.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it, man.
The frequency dropped.
The frequency dropped.
They took all the bells. They took all the harmonic things that we had connected to us, because everything was all connected. It's like a computer grid. It was like a grid.
Yeah, man.
And once that grid got destroyed and they disconnected us from the grid, that's when our frequency, and they started putting up all these poles with all these different, electrical sensors that's bringing our vibration lower. That's what disconnected us. You know what I mean? Because we couldn't think that much high frequency anymore, because we had to have all those high frequency things that we had at that time to keep us above. That's why our pyramids, everything was meant to keep our brain above a certain frequency. And once that frequency dropped, then we dropped. You know what I mean? It's like we fell. It's like we fell back down to evolution. Like it's like the apes. You know what I mean? Like we had to. So we have to, build that structure back up again.
It's a good point, brother, because it's like evolution or devolution. We evolved to a point and must have begun to devolve. We must have been cut off from the essence of what made us so great, even before the first Arab or Muslim. And let's be honest, even when we talk about Islam, a lot of the people who were practicing the Islam and invading were African converts. You know what I mean? So we would readily, even before the European come, we already reached the point where we were removed from that knowledge of self.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about, hidden knowledge.
Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
Right.
Totally. I'm going to Chase.
It was all jealousy, man. Jealousy.
Also, too, is the fact that it's kind of like science and sorcery. Yeah, where education became a power in itself.
Yeah.
Whether you want to call that occultist or whatever, but it was like, if you go all the way back to Alexandria and all that kind of stuff, what you got is the fact that the Africans, I could break them down into Etruscans or whatever and all that kind of stuff, but that they believed in knowledge. And some people might call that occult knowledge because, they were teaching calculus and math and medical stuff, right? So, like, in that fashion is that you had a bunch of people or a race of people that was teaching us to the point where they built schools. Now, it was interesting because I don't know the woman's name, but it turns out that the oldest university was built by a woman. And that's like, I think it's
you're talking about Timbuktu? You talking about Timbuktu or?
Well, no, Timbuktu was another one. That's the main one. But I'm trying to say is she built one before Timbuktu. But Timbuktu was important because that also was a college that that's where you train people like Plato and Socrates and all these kind of guys who went away with the information that they learned, the science or the sorcery, whatever, and they claimed it for their own. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, "Hey, I went over to Africa and I learned all this knowledge," it's kind of like they came around saying that I created this, like Pythagoras theorem and all of that other kind of stuff. But what I was trying to say is the fact that education, which was knowledge, could also be looked upon as the occult, especially for the time that it came about, and because it's something people didn't understand, and they needed a race of people like the Africans to actually teach them, train them, And when we talked about this before, I said it was all about humility, because they knew that it was the right thing to do. It wasn't like they came with judgment and felt like, well, you're, different, even though there was no such thing as black and white back then, but you're from a different place or a different culture. But they still taught people anyway, and some people might say, well, that's your downfall because why are you helping people who won't help you? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But
yeah,
they didn't think like that. They just thought that this is you want to learn, here you go.
yeah,
You
man.
know?
Of course, because like here we were saying before, all these indigenous peoples, if you look at the people who live in secluded places, I've been into some rainforest all over the place, Asia, Pacific, Australia, Africa, whatever. The people who always live in the most secluded places seem to have like a certain type of knowledge what the rest of the world just doesn't seem to have, or we're distracted from it. So even like when people started building the first cities, the city mentality is completely different than the village mentality or the rainforest mentality. So I'm looking at like if I go into these sacred parts of Asia, yeah, there's only like a handful of so many people. So the amount of invasions that these people have had to go through in the Philippines, the Thailands, the Malaysia, the Indonesians. So if you look at them, they're always in these highland areas where so if you were getting invaded, and this is even before the Europeans, because the Europeans were latecomers. You had to in Asia, they had to deal with the Mongolian first before they worried about the European. And you know about like Genghis Khan, how he was going on, you know what I'm saying? Same with obviously ancient America, man. If you look at like the indigenous peoples, they had bare knowledge, but then you had a certain group of other people, Mongolian type, who were like suppressing the brothers, man. You know what I'm saying? But we're not even told the proper story of places, even way in the States, for example. If you there's a boss documentary where they went into Brazil and they found like the oldest skeletal remains, and they called it Lucia, black woman, and they showed you in the cave paintings. Yeah, first of all, you seen things like armadillos, like ancient extinct animals, and then it showed you later on through the archaeology that there was an invading people that come thousands of years later, and I'm showing you them like licking someone over the head and all that, the way you see in Kemet where a man's like got someone by the braids and they're smashing the heads in the temples and all that. Well, you see that all over the world, man. These symbolic symbols, like the Hebrew, for example. But that went in the Egyptians who started dealing with them. They were already getting oppressed in their own place in Canaan. You know what I mean? Or the Sumerians, you see. So basically, I'm looking at like you just said before. I'm going to finish my point off. It's like we were on 100% high frequency level. Then each thing that kept on happening. So like you can look at the first dynasty in Egypt. There's like a missing area there where the Nubians come from and conquered Egypt, but they were conquering them from invaders who were bringing in, who were suppressing our knowledge. Later on, you get like what you call the Hebrews, but I'm going to call them Hyksos because there was no Hebrews right then. And then they remember the Book of the Dead come out. You have the Book of the Dead come out. Then later on, you've got like a Torah coming out every time. Then a Bible coming out. Then a Quran. Every single time, with the frequency is lowering. Then the last one, obviously, is when the Europeans came in, and that just put the nail in the coffin and suppressed us on a global level. I'm going to finish off with my point now. I'm going to bring it in, Raz, to continue this one anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when we're looking at like hidden knowledge, we still have to like we have to differentiate between concepts and
Mm,
definite knowledge.
yeah,
For
yeah,
example, like
totally.
on the on the internet is both positive and negative. If used right, it's
Yeah.
really a very good tool. But there's a lot of things that come up on the internet, and they require a lot of good looking at, like practical looking, thinking, like in a very corporate manner. So, for example, I haven't had time to look at a lot of the posts that come up on our group chat, but that place called Tartia, right?
Tartaria.
Tartaria.
Tartaria, like for me, from what I know, right? Um, that was like a generic term used by European map makers for like Northern Asia and Central Asia,
Yeah.
right? And for me, all right, when I first learned of this some time ago, people was telling me, oh, it was a mud. And I said, well, how can a whole nation or empire be covered in mud? Because in reality, you can see mud, right? You have mudslides in mountainous areas, right? And throughout time, you could have towns, villages gone. But I've never, like, on a geological level, I don't think a whole mass of land could be covered in mud, because it's not like water. The mud has to come from somewhere, right? So a lot of these things require a lot of deep looking into, rather than just passing it on. And we say it's knowledge, but really it's just a concept. It can lead to knowledge. I'm not saying I know it's false. What I'm saying is that we do have to do our digging. We can't just, whether it's mainstream or not mainstream, we can't just get little snippets of information and run with it. We need to really weigh and measure it, yeah? We need to weigh and measure it and look at the facts. Does the facts stand up in nature and degree? And we need to be able to do that in a very discerning way. Otherwise, we might just get caught up again with other falsities. And we want to move away from falsehood.
Yeah, but the remains of the facts are there, though, Araz. I mean, like, I've been searching for, like, the mud flood for ages, and, like, no one, this is what I'm trying to say, is, like, no one on the internet is claiming to know where it comes from or what actually happened, except for the fact that it did happen. It happened in certain places, and what
What places are
got
those, bro? Like in a modern level, what places were them?
I mean, if I
What
remember
time?
right.
What timeline?
All right, bro. If I remember right, like I said, I've been researching it best I could, but if I remember right, I think Chicago had gotten hit by a mud flood. But what I was going to say is that there are locations throughout America which have buildings that are submerged under the ground. And those buildings are supposed to be an example of the mud flood, where it's like there's like basement windows that are only halfway up. And so what about the bottom half of it? And so like the mud flood would have come in and solidified, those
All
buildings.
cities
Now
have
those,
that, bro. All cities, because
but that's what I'm
listen,
trying
just
to
let
say.
me just let me finish, right? All cities have, right? Because I was talking, and you jumped in, but I was cool. All cities have. The older the city, the more residue and building on top of each other. If you went to New York now and you dug below the sewers, you'd see older New York from the time when the Dutch were there and the British. That's how it works. That is
Yeah.
how it works. So, what all I'm saying, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel away. I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
just one example. If somebody gives me some information, right, I need to look at it, weigh and measure it. I'm not in a rush either. I need to weigh and measure it, look at it. Even if it takes me a year or 2 years, I'm going to do it, because I'm not a chicken. The farmer throws corn and I just come out like a chicken and pick it up and run with it like it's the gospel.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that. I need to look at the facts. But it's no good telling me it's a fact, and you're not giving me facts. We need to look at the facts of something so we can break it down. You know what I mean, and decipher that.
Yeah, man. Are you there? Are you there, the Reverend? You still there? The Reverend? Yeah. But anyway, yeah. When we speak on like a flood, because I was going to bring this up, funny enough, we're kind of on a nature topic and that. The flood thing now, everyone speaks on a global flood from indigenous peoples. Yeah, there's some sort of flood story. And the flood story can be told in different ways, whether it was a sky flood, whether it was just torrential rains, whether it was the sea levels rising. Just I'm not going to go into that, but I want to deal with like lost continents, for example. Now, I don't want to just speak on it like without any evidence or any kind of I just went on the internet type of thing. So if you look at like a lot of these where the Pacific Islands is now, and you got a bunch of islands all over the place now. Now, in their oral history, and why I bring up oral history, very important because if oral history is matching kind of around the world as well, where everyone's got like a similar story, even a similar spirituality. So they speak on like these places in the Pacific. Some called it New Zealander. This is some called it Lemuria. And then there was also a lot of volcanic. Some people call them volcanic islands, and then sometimes people speak about there was major floods, and then one time they all connected. The same with the Indian Ocean. Brother Ranoka Rashidi, and I'm a witness to what he said because I was out in Sri Lanka myself. He spoke about they called it camaraderie. And it was the Indian Ocean that's connected to Africa and Australia. And then eventually it sank. Now, if I bring up now documentation now, okay, we already know about oral history. Sheikh Anta Diop now. In his book, African Civilization, Myth or Reality, he speaks at a recent time, because what I like what he does, he deals with the science, but he also deals with the oral history and combines it. So he was saying that there's a lot of people of West Africa, actually, this is what he writes. There were certain groups of West Africans that claimed they came from the island of the seas. So when he says the island of the seas, he was meaning the so-called Indian Ocean. It's an African ocean, but just let's just, for argument's sake, I'm just dealing with the location. And he was saying a lot of them had to flee due to floods or like the sea levels rising or whatever, and they fled. And then that's a similar story to Sri Lanka. It's a similar story to these Aboriginal Australians. So if someone's on one continent over there, one continent in Asia, Australia, Africa, 3 different continents saying the same thing. So then you got a question, like, was this a landmass where you've got like big island now, Madagascar is the biggest island. I went out there, then you got Mauritius, you got then Sri Lanka the other side. So these flood myths now, there's a lot of like because if you don't go along with the flood myth, then we've got to go along with the scientists believing that all this Pangaea broke up way before we were in existence. And it actually, to be honest, it actually make more sense that we were here during the time of Pangaea.
Well, it's a fact that there's been many inundations, right? Through various epochs of time. The surface of the world is 70% water.
Yeah.
We're only living on 30% of land, and not all of it's solid, right? I can only look at what happened in Port Royal in Jamaica, right? Jamaica, right? I think up until, when was it? 1679 or whatever, I can't remember the exact. But Port Royal was the capital, and that's where all the pirates and bootleggers and enslavers were doing their business, and it was all corrupt and wicked. Yeah. And basically, right, one day there was an earthquake, and 2/3 of the city dropped into the Caribbean Sea. And the reason why it happened was because of, obviously, there's loose tectonic plates, earthquake, and it was built on sand like a silt. So when the earthquake happened, it just liquidized the foundation, liquefied, and it just sank into the sea. Right now, Port Royal is a small little place, right? This was before Kingston was the capital. I can deal with water inundations, but if someone's telling me about a land and where was the land, how big was it, what landmass are we talking about? Was it an advanced civilization? Okay, and the mud covered them, because all cities If you go into, I'm in London at the minute, and if you go to any old city like Rome, there's loads of excavation digs. They're digging because that's where the earlier civilization was, because things change in time. Yeah. Yeah, you got growth, rainfall, things grow constantly, things get built on top of each other. So you've got to dig to
Yeah.
find things. That's just the point I was making.
Totally, man. Totally. The Reverend was trying to get you on before, but you were busy. You want to come on? Is your screen froze? Yes, the reception. Are you still there, Chase?
Yeah.
You want to come in? And then Drrevren can come in after you because his screen froze. Yeah, so you can either continue. You speak on a flat Earth as well, Chase. What do you reckon is like, rather than like going to and I'm not here to challenge the flat Earth. I just mean like, where does it lead to, the flat Earth, basically, as far as the hidden knowledge? Because it's not just only it's flat and that's it. Is it a case of like there's, I've heard many things about it could be about another 7, 8 continents behind Antarctica, so tell us a bit about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like basically, where does it lead to is like, what do you mean? It's always been there,
No, what I mean is rather than like, when two people have a discussion, the Earth's flat, the Earth's round.
No, I get you. What
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to say is that, like, scientifically, there's a lot of proof out there about the flatness. But if you're going to ask me about the outer lands, as they call them, I'm going to say I don't know much about the outer lands except for what I see on a map. Like Garcia, is supposed to have like these white Nordic alien types, you know. Where white skin could have come from, who knows? But in that fashion is that they became a no-go zone for everyone when where we talked about last time about the Antarctic Treaty. Now, it's Antarctic Treaty is the same thing like with the
yeah.
moon landing, where,
Okay, okay.
all the governments got together and decided this is going to be a fact. Yeah, and like this is how it is. So you only got pretty much two islands that people have gone to, like Deception Island and Rothschild Island. Now, funny enough, Rothschild, come on, that's from the leading families of the Rothschilds
Hmm.
and everything like that. So it's like they had the power to name an island after themselves in a hidden area, of the world. Um,
You,
now, yeah, now,
funny enough, you mentioned about maps and stuff. There's many different maps all over the world, yeah, ancient maps. I've seen maps where they show you the Antarctic being green. I couldn't,
Tropical.
yeah,
no, exactly. But then
but
ask yourself,
this is the way of the earth. You could see the Bear and Land Bridge one time was tropical Beringia before, when you're crossing over to what the States is, Alaska and that. So that's
yeah, but
something
that's
that
what I
the Sahara Desert was one time green.
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah,
That
okay.
that was also green. I mean, like you got to think about erosion,
Yeah,
right? Where things
I,
don't last forever.
of
You
course,
know
of
what I mean?
course.
So, like in that aspect, is that time is just much longer than we were told.
Yeah,
So when people only look at it from the short time that we're in now, we're in the so-called 21st century.
yeah.
That like we've been around since what year one and before that a little bit. So
Mm,
we've been around since BC. But any scientist nowadays will tell you that BC is not just like 10 BC. It's like 10,000 BC. You know what I'm saying? It's much older than you think. So with that, the natural course of time would have changed a lot of things, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
But also too, as far as explaining a lot of things, if you have an advanced society like Lemuria or Atlantis or whatever stuff like that you were talking about before, you got the fact that people flew or objects, was more scientifically, they had more scientific tools because like you could either say, I believe in the giants and I believe the giants built the pyramids, or you could say no, but there was a technology that the Egyptians had that seemed to be more advanced than hammer and chisel. Yeah. Now, but you could believe that, and you can also believe in the fact that it took them 100 years or so to build the pyramids, right? So they're talking about fathers, sons, grandfathers worked on the same thing. You're asking yourself, that's some powerful organization there, where they have to, have a tribe of people building the same object, which are these pyramids. So, whereas if you did have giants, or if you take the idea that the Sahara Desert was green and underwater, not
Yeah.
underwater, but you know what I mean, that it had like
Lakes, rivers,
you can
vegetation, everything.
actually you can
Yeah.
actually use that to somewhat explain away how they traveled 1,000-ton limestones across the land because they were traveling by boat or water. Yeah, but that still doesn't take away um, the marvelous feat that it took them to build. Now, what you got a new science now where they're telling you that the pyramid is actually a power plant, that there are no tombs in the pyramids. Now you go, wait a minute, hold on for a second. We were always told that there was a pharaoh's tomb. We've seen the
Yeah.
mummifications,
Yeah.
a lot of other kind of stuff. But they're like, well, actually, there's no fact or truth or proof to that. You know what I mean? That's a story that we're told that and everything, but the proof is in the pudding, where you do have mercury, like pools of mercury inside the pyramid.
Mm.
Now they discovered like around 1920 um by an archaeologist, where now mercury not only poisonous, but the power of it, you got to imagine. Well, what was it? What was it? Why was it there? Why is there a whole pool of mercury inside the pyramids? You
But it was
know?
never a tomb. The Great Pyramid was never a tomb. It was
Well, no,
always, it's
exactly.
always. In fact, if
You're
you look
exactly
at it,
right.
look at the word, right? Pyramid. Pyre is Greek for fire, so it's showing you that it's extracting energy from the sun. The mercury and the eons and other things that were in there was part of that. Even the
No,
ducts,
you're,
aqueducts, and all sorts.
you're
Yeah.
exactly right, Roz. But that's also the thing where we see the pyramids now in our timeline, in our generation, and we see them kind of like as step pyramids. We
Mm.
see the remains of the
The
limestone where,
limestone and
like,
the gold, all that's gone. But it
yeah,
was as it was originally. It was definitely a power station, most
no, but
definitely.
yeah, Roz, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, is that like it used to be kind of like this gold tip at the top of it. It was the limestone was more sheer. It's like it was like
It was
white.
like white, and it
Yeah,
reflected. It would blind you. The gold
no,
and the white would blind you because it was absorbing all the energy from the sun.
yeah, bro, we're saying the same thing, but that's what I'm
I
trying to
know
say.
that. I'm agreeing with you. I'm not saying nothing
No,
opposite.
no, no, no.
I've
I
been
know, I
on
know,
there.
but I mean, I'm trying to get my thought across. But like, what I'm just trying to say is, you are definitely right. But people don't know this. People only see what they see now. They only
Mm.
see the knowledge that they were taught and indoctrinated a couple of years ago when they were in school. But they don't know. Like, if you tell them that the pyramid was white or was tipped with gold, nobody would fucking believe you. And that's
Anybody though,
where
listen, if anyone with an open mind, even a child, would be thinking, why would you build something that size just to put a couple of tombs in there. That doesn't make sense. Obviously, it had a different use that they are trying to take away from us. And yet
But
the pyramid appears on the dollar bill.
yeah, but see, that's obviously, but that's not what people talk about. So because we're led away from that, what other ideas, even like the all-seeing eye of the pyramid on the dollar bill, like they found inside one of the pyramids, they found these long slabs of black granite,
Mhm.
right? In the and everything, and it's like, well, first of all, what is that? And then what do you mean there's black granite, like, things in there? And so it's like we don't know because we weren't there.
I just want to say something,
Well,
yeah, right, about findings and archaeology, anthropological studies, and all that. Yeah, because they're suppressing a lot of things. So now, say we're focused on a lost continent, for example. Nothing wrong with a lost continent. There's probably been many, whatever, you know what I'm saying. But when we say a lost civilization in these oceans or wherever you want to like place them, and then we look and think, well, so then where would Africa stand? Because Africa's still standing. Yeah. Why did Africa lose its civilization? Or why did Asia lose its civilization of Aborigines? Obviously due to invaders and obviously certain elites in power, of course. But as far as like I look at a lot of the archaeological studies, like even like the underwater pyramids that were found off the coast of Japan, for
Mhm.
example. In the Mediterranean, there's a lot of things that look identical to Egypt and all sorts of things. But because we are not in, we don't have the power to claim these things. Like where it's all being suppressed. So this is why I always say like Africa needs to become more independent and take charge of its own archaeological studies because Africans will get funded by the Europeans or the Americans, whatever, but then they're just going along with the same thing as them because they just want to just they're just about getting that funding in for themselves, you know what I'm saying? So this is the thing, man, where hopefully in the future, or there's some honest Europeans who come out with some things. And sometimes when Europeans say some stuff, people take it a little bit more serious, but then you'll get the opposition say, oh, these people are ludicrous, pseudoscience, and all this one and that. But there's a certain level of consciousness that we can't let people take away. Like we can try to figure out what was under this ocean, what was there, and we can't see it with our naked eye, even though it doesn't write it off. But
There's pyramids in China, in England, made
yeah,
out of mud mounds,
yeah,
hills. So it's proof that there was a global civilization,
definitely,
right,
yeah,
in ancient times,
mm,
right, that may have reached the zenith and imploded on itself, right? Um, when it comes to Atlantis, right, there's a lot of proof, right, to suggest that there has been sunken lands
mm,
in that Atlantic ridge.
yeah,
And even when you go to Bahamas, you've been to Bermuda, Bahamas, you got that Bimini, which is like roads. There's lots of cities off the
mm,
coast of India,
yeah,
Africa, all over the world that are
that's it, yeah,
sunken, bro. That
yeah,
are sunken because they've been lowered because of earthquake activity, seismic activity. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
if you've got like pyramids, mounds like
mm.
Stonehenge, you got similar things of Stonehenge in Senegal and other parts of Africa, in Nigeria,
Even
but they
Tonga,
don't record these things. They don't tell us
yeah.
because they give us lies to believe in. They've lied to us. They've confused us so that we don't know who we are and we don't
Mm,
know the world we're living in.
exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like, as years go by, things slowly come out because you've got like certain people in certain positions where it's either the whistleblowers or, you can't stay backward for too long because it's not, they get exposed for looking like, well, there's an example, things like physics, like quantum physics and these types of things. they start saying that the Western world's slowly catching up. So it has no choice but to slowly catch up. It could do it at a faster pace, but if they don't catch up in any single way, they're going to get left behind the rest of the world. And the West always like to be ahead, look like they're ahead. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So things like all these quantum physics and reckon that this is like more closer to the sacred science, but like the West is not like they're not letting it out the bag. You know what I'm saying? There's
Well,
actually
that's why a slower pace, as you say, because
they have
you
to
know,
they
just
have
like
to
it came out only about what 2 years ago
they're
that
moving slow.
white people had DNA with the Neanderthals, you know, and whereas before they were like Neanderthals are like dumb animal kind of people.
Yeah. That's right.
That
That
until you're like, well, wait a minute though, who do you think are Neanderthals? And when they found out that that was in a lot of white people's genes, then it's like, oh no, Neanderthals were great. Didn't they, Bill?
yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
And a
definitely.
lot of the original, well, all of the original Europeans and other peoples across the world were black. And the original mutations might have been blue eyes or looser hair. And then eventually the pigmentation, because of where they were, was decreased. And they may have got paler skin to deal with where the areas they were in. So when you look at it, like you say, we weren't there, right? But white people, as in Europeans, are the new kids on the block. They've probably been around no more than 10,000 years, probably a lot less.
Yeah.
And everybody, the whole world was black
Mm.
because the world goes through changes, like we're saying, you know, like you said it, James, you said where the Bering Strait is, Antarctica, all these things, where there was once, where there's desert now, there was once lakes and God
Yeah,
knows what. So the earth perpetually goes through its changes. The earth is
exactly.
a living being and changes, and all life on the earth must change too, either adapt or die, and that's
Yeah,
it.
totally it is. You got to adapt, man. It is, and this and the lower frequency that we are on, and like the world feels. Don't get me wrong, but the Western world is really on a low frequency, totally, and it's ignorance what's keeping them on it. Where there's people there who could be in third world countries, and they're more happy with life. You know, there's less suicide than like what's in the West. You know what I'm saying? So, but back to what you mentioned before, Chase. You were speaking about Antarctica. You mentioned about people speaking on these white alien beings and that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that's quite interesting, that part. But that story also is taught in different places amongst the world. What's interesting. So the Dogon, they speak on beings coming from the stars, and teaching them the knowledge. But they also speak on a set of white beings that came down, and I don't know where. Like I say, when they say come down, I'm not saying they're the one from the stars. I mean, I think that's two different discussions with the Dogon, but they do speak on white beings. But they mentioned that these evil beings as well. So then you've
The
got like the
Dogon spoke of the Nomo as well, like a
yeah
aquatic
a different
type
set of
being.
beings.
Yeah, yeah.
So they spoke on one set of beings that give them a knowledge, like, and taught them this and that. But then they also speak on these other evil beings. But then, like the Maasai tribes, they also speak on. When we say two gods, they say that there's Engai and Enkai, and then one is a good god and one is an evil god. So I mentioned this actually on an early podcast of yours, actually, Chase, a while ago about Engai and that. So it's not the fact that it goes back to a bit of a duality thing. Let's just say that. And some people say, well, God can't be duality, but in reality, whether it's in this dimension that we are in anyway, if we're dealing with that, this is definitely a duality planet. You know, it's duality in every single way. You know what I'm saying? And whether or not you want to hit like a fifth dimension or whatever dimension, and it's a different realm there where everything is just love, positivity, and all there is. That's a different thing. But what we're dealing with down here is pure duality, and it doesn't matter if it look at like your right brain, your left brain. Everything is duality. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah,
But
man.
everything is the Trinity. Everything is in the power of three. But like because when you talk about Inke and his brother, they are two brothers, and then there's the father who's Akhenaten. So like the whole thing about it is that it's a Trinity. But what I want to say is that
I think it was Anu, was the
oh, I'm
father,
sorry,
which
I'm
is
sorry, brother.
interesting because that's
You're
also
probably
the
right.
name for our ancestors, the
Yeah,
Anu who became the ancestors. Go on, Chase.
yeah. So anyway, like what I was gonna say was going back to the flat Earth idea for a second, where we're under a dome, like under the firmament. And
Mm,
so that leads people to believe that space itself is not real.
mm,
There are various different aspects scientifically of why we never went to space, why the ships that blast off always curve when they get to the sky, and some of them actually their video where some of them actually explode as if they hit the firmament. But what I would say is that okay, then people say, well, what about UFOs? What about aliens? And that's where again places like Garcia and the outer lands come into place. Because if these places are older and everything than we think, like when you go back to the 10 billion BC kind of thing, is that like they already invented time, not time travel, they already invented travel through space and through the air and stuff like that. So why couldn't these so-called UFOs be ships that come from the outer lands and not from space?
yeah.
And that's a thought to think about because the thing about it is that, there's so many different thoughts around it. I mean, I find it debatable, but I also find it confusing because I feel I am so indoctrinated like everyone else that there are 9 planets, that there's a sun, that there's a moon, and all of that other kind of stuff. But even though the sun and the moon are supposed to exist with inside the dome, inside the firmament. But then like the whole thing is that like I just trying to say about and I'm throwing the idea out there about aliens that they're not aliens. They're actually Agarthians or people from the outer lands who like come out to explore every so often.
From are
You
It's
you,
know,
interesting.
are you
It's
talking
very
about?
interesting.
I just want to quickly say something, bring you in now, Raz,
Yeah.
because some people look at the UFO, yeah, as these aliens just come from space, boom, come down from this whatever planet, this that. But then even like in Islam and even in many other things, they speak on like these where coming out of other dimensions. And when we say a dimension could be right next door to you. It's not a case of you have to come from this place or that place. Then you can look at like a water dimension, water. You know what I'm saying? The water spirits, because this my tribe got stories about because we're near the rivers and that. He spoke about mermaids popping up, water spirits, and even like when they used to pick someone to be a leader, they'd throw something into the water and the way it landed and wherever it went to, then sometimes they would decide who's going to be the leader, because they don't see nothing by accident. So that's just like one aspect of it. So I'm going to bring Raz into it now anyway.
I think there's many ways of looking at it, right? Because
Yeah.
you can you can invest in the dome and the firmament, and you don't have to. You can think of vast space and time if you want. You can look at different dimensions, but even looking at down to earth, we already said, right, that we live on 30% of the land and the rest is 70%. So they say, I have not measured it, so I could be talking out my backside here, right? But we talked about the surface. So if we're living on 30% of the surface of the earth, look at the earth, look how big
Mm,
the earth is, look at the bowels of the earth. There's got to be life within the earth. It's not all hot lava and magma. There's got to be openings to the earth where you can sustain life. And that's a fact. There could be humanoid beings there. There could be alien looking people like the
mm,
Greys, because the Sand people talk about a people like the Greys who
mm,
come out from the inner earth
mm,
occasionally to terrorize humans, right? So there's many ways of looking at it, yeah. And because even when you look at the Earth and we're talking about, well, I wasn't talking about it, but talking about Antarctica being an ice wall and other continents beyond that. So we don't even know what's on the surface of the Earth, let alone what's in the bowels of the Earth.
Yeah, that's it.
And plus,
Yeah,
like you said, frequency, like before the brother and the Reverend got cut out, he was
yeah,
talking about frequencies. So if we're talking about frequencies, you can have thousands, millions, innumerable amounts of channels existing in different frequencies, you know. So we could actually be living in a multiple layered existence with
yeah,
others, other beings, other worlds, all on top of each other, all within each other. And
exactly.
some of us may have the learned pedigree to access some of those worlds. Sometimes when we dream, we may
Yeah,
access some
your
of
camera
these.
froze before. You gonna log back on? You're gonna log back on? Your camera froze before. Don't answer the phone then. Yeah, man. No, it's totally right. It can be we're living amongst because sometimes people are too much busy looking up at the sky and what's up in space that's gonna come down here. But like you're saying, you got the bowels of the earth, the inner earth. Then yeah, you could speak about Antarctica as some sort of portal, but then it wouldn't just be only Antarctica. It'd be many places. I mean, what's this Area 51? Or like,
That's not that's just a base. That's
yeah,
just a
but you don't know you never know. Even not just there, there's parts of Mexico that sacred areas.
yeah, it's part of Roswell, but it's just a base though. James, it's just like where supposedly the
The
first aliens
Roswell
were
incident.
captured and stuff. You know what I mean? So I mean that.
And then another one, underground, not just bunkers. When we say bunkers, I'm talking about 600 feet deep into the ground. Like there's whistleblowers who've spoken this. Now I can't put solid evidence on it, but what I mean is people spoke about there's labs underground. Do you know what
No,
I mean?
there
Where they're
is.
creating all
There's
these type
underground
of beings.
cities. Yeah,
Yeah,
there is. There's underground
underground.
cities.
Yeah,
The thing is, as well, right? It's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of these things we can't prove, we can't weigh or measure them. So it just boils down to what you particularly like or what
yeah,
you like to believe. So, for
mm,
example, you may like to invest in the dome and the firmament,
yeah,
or you may like to invest that there's not, or Area 51 is just a base. But it could be more. It could be a portal. They could be doing things there because we don't know, right? So we don't know about Antarctica. We don't know about the walls of ice if it's
Right.
real. But we may wish to invest in that.
mm,
Our belief system may be more comfortable with that than Area 51. It's just like I remember I used to read a lot of comic books, and it's like in the Baxter building where the Fantastic Four was, they had a portal to the negative zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
mm,
portals, remember, you have ley lines and the grid, the electromagnetic grid. There's many parts of this world, right, where ancients and even learned, sophisticated people today, through meditation and various other forms of high discipline, can access other worlds. They can
mm.
access other dimensions. They certainly can.
Can I ask you a
Talk to the
question?
animals, like Dr.
Mm,
Doolittle. There's
yeah,
people who can actually talk to animals, and
mm,
animals can talk to certain people. It's a skill. Just
yeah,
because we don't have that skill, it doesn't
mm.
mean no one else can have it. Can you
Totally.
talk? Can you talk French or Italiano? Just because I can't talk French
Yeah,
fluently or Italian, it doesn't mean other people can't.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, totally. And then I was speaking the other day about in Nigeria, for example. I'm only using Nigeria because you've got loads of tribes, and then the amount of different languages what people have is unbelievable. The dialects,
That's
it's
right.
just like where it's
Hundreds
like
and hundreds.
I think it's just like crazy. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's
Yeah.
like is having loads of dialects a level of freedom, or is it a level of like separation? Sometimes I try to figure out them both. Do you know what I'm saying? because yeah, it's the Europeans created the border. You know what I'm saying? But
But I
it's
mean, just to add a little fact thing to what you were asking for before, Admiral Byrd,
Yeah, yeah.
what
Flew
Operation
into the openings of the earth.
yeah. So when you talk about the underground earths and all that, and he actually laid claim to traveling under and seeing some of this stuff,
Hmm.
And it was funny was there was a TV broadcast that he did, and it seemed like the broadcast was set to discredit him. But like, so as they asked him questions and he started to answer about, these Eloy or whatever they call under the earth and everything like that, they were trying to make him look like he was a madman, you know? But this is what I'm trying to say is this is what people do is like when you scratch their brain or cause friction to their thoughts, they try to like, silence you or isolate you in some way, shape, or form, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen for him, because after he made those statements, after he made that trip, that's when we got the Antarctic Treaty.
you know what
So,
though? If you look at the evidence that's in front of us, right? The technology you look in the last 20 years, 30 years, 40, whatever years you want, and is it just the fact that man's just intelligent and can just go from like the rapid speed of it I'm talking about, the rapid speed of it. So is it some people believe that like some sort of they're working with extraterrestrials to get this type of knowledge. And then you relate that to the ancient world where they spoke on certain beings, give share the knowledge. You see indigenous people, some people will call on certain spirits, whether it's through they can do it through the drums, sound, there's many different ways, rituals, pour libation out. So there's many different
well,
things on
well, the
why.
thing about it, James, thing about it is, like you brought up Roswell, right? And the main interesting thing about Roswell is not Area 51, but it's the fact that the crash site
Mm,
had the scientific elements to them. Like supposedly they found like things like fiber optics,
yeah.
coil springs, and stuff like that. But what
Mm,
they have done with the elements of this ship that they found is that they had then upgraded their own stealth technology. Now the
okay.
thing about it is that when I looked at Area 51 and I'm looking at Roswell, I think it was like what 1957, wasn't it? Well, guess what came out in 1958? The computer, IBM, the
Okay.
International Business Machines.
Mm,
So, like, the thing about it is when, the early, scientists had those big EIA racks with the reel to reels and all of that other kind of stuff. All of
I
a
think
sudden,
Roswell was 47, 48, something like
all
that.
right, yeah, same thing. All right, sorry about that.
No, it's
Thank
not.
you for that. No,
Just for
thank
the
you for that.
podcast, bro. Just for the
10 years
No,
podcast.
no, no.
difference.
Yeah, okay, no. Thank you
Not
for
the
that.
same
But
thing.
what I'm trying to say is,
Go on anyway.
I
Yeah.
did my research a year later.
Okay.
IBM was born, right?
Mm,
And so what I'm trying to say is that they use part of that technology to start creating, and I call it a genius jump.
mm,
Yeah. Like there are several different points in history where all of a sudden man just got more genius. It was like, but that was one of those clear points where you could date back to the computer, and what was the birth of the computer? But when they found those interior objects like fiber optics and all that kind of stuff, the motherboard and all that to actually create. Now they weren't doing that before,
mm.
this time period. So like that's what I think is amazing because and the only thing but people never really talk about that. People never talk about what they so-called found in the crash, except for the fact that you get these that distractions. And the distraction is the little grays.
Have you
You
seen the
know,
you seen these
Just to say,
holograms? I've seen these
just to say,
holograms.
well, no, but I mean, they rather you
Project
believe.
Bluebeam example. Have you ever heard of Project Bluebeam?
No, no, no. But what I'm
So
trying to say is,
yeah.
they rather you believe in aliens, right? These little gray aliens, and they rather you believe in the alien autopsy, which I don't know what is true or not. But I will say this is that when you look at the pyramids, on the pyramid walls, you have an example of a spaceman, meaning like you got like a person inside of a chair, inside of a suit that has
Yeah, yeah.
been.
I've seen that. I've
that's
seen
not
that.
in the pyramid though.
No,
That's on
that's
a
the
temple wall, bro.
I've seen
It's
that
what?
not.
picture.
Yeah, it's not. It's on a temple wall. The submarines, aircraft, and people looking like astronauts. But that's not
Mm.
in the Great Pyramid.
But it might not be the Great Pyramid, but it was on a pyramid wall. It's like
No,
when I
I'm
was
not
studying.
sure, bro. I'm not
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure.
just
I know
I
the
was
depiction.
studying
I know the
when I
depiction
was
you mean.
studying pyramids. There are various different things. It's kind of like the same thing with the pharaohs having handbags, or like there's another picture or a relief where it looks like a person is operating a laptop. The point is, those are actual real things that you can find. I just don't know what pyramid to tell you that it's on, right? Or
They're
what
on
temple
temple
that.
walls. Yeah, they're on temple walls. I've seen them, bro. I've seen them.
We'll look
Oh,
at
that,
this,
Look,
yeah,
so
because we've got to look at the future also, yeah, which is going to match exactly what you're talking about now, the future. As they're going to strip us more away from the knowledge, yeah, eventually they'll shut the internet down. They're going to shut a lot of things. There's going to be total shutdown eventually, you know
I
what I
want to
mean,
say as
to
well,
enslave us.
a point that that Chase made, right? So I think it was in the late 40s. So they were saying that like an aircraft, a space flying saucer crashed in
Mm.
Roswell, right? Rumors, I don't know if it's true. And there was three bodies. I think one was alive and the other two were dead. And they
Yeah.
yeah.
called them Ebby or Emmy or something. They said large parts of ET was apparently based on this alien
Mm.
creature. But if for example this did happen and America got a certain amount of technology from these otherworldly beings, then why would the IBM be like the size of a house then? When these aliens must have had technology, if they could traverse in a craft like light years, they must have had high tech technology. Would have been a bit more advanced than the IBM stacks
Well,
of
well,
computer.
no, because you got to figure what we're doing is they were recreating, stuff that they've seen and tried to recreate. So it started out as a big wall sized, box or cabinet, and it slowly reduced over time to now being held in our hands.
Yeah,
You
but
know what I mean?
what I'm saying is that if they had a direct link with these otherworldly beings who had high advanced technology, they wouldn't have had to get to the genesis of big stacked computers, would they? They would have been able to get to do the shortcut straight away. Because if these entities truly did exist and they crashed, they would have had high levels of technology there already, wouldn't they? And if one
But
of
then
them lived,
again, but you got to think about our intelligence versus theirs.
it's not
So
ours. It's not
like
ours.
when
Listen,
I was
it's not ours because the white people in Roswell representing America is not me. So I'm not going to say ours. I'm
okay,
divorcing
okay, all right,
myself
all
from
right, all
that.
right, all right. But what I'm all right, fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is, like when I was in high school, I went to a technical high school, Brooklyn Tech, and like I took computers for the first time, right? And like basically, even back then, it was down to like those cards with the binary codes and everything. They're also known as holograph codes. And what I'm just trying to say is communication was mathematical. So it was all about the zeros and the ones and all that other kind of stuff. So you're talking about humans trying to decipher a language that they didn't know. So if they create, a large size version, they eventually created a small size version. But it still is IBM. It still was created at the same time. and it still is a source. Is what I'm just trying to say. You know, it's to be.
Yeah. No, I'm not discrediting you. You know,
No, no, no,
please
no, no, no.
understand me.
I'm just trying to say.
What I'm saying is, you're given a certain amount of information.
Right.
You're
That I
not saying it
researched.
happened. You're saying it's possible it could have happened. Am I
No,
right?
no, no. I am saying it's possible, but I'm
Are you
also
saying it
saying.
happened, or it's possible it happened? What are you saying?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm saying I researched it. That's what I'm saying, and I'm saying that
And it
like
happened.
time frame. So the time frame is a guess, yeah, but it is also a fact that I can find that this happened at the same time as Roswell. You know, so I mean, maybe I'm speculating too much, yeah,
No, I'm
but
not.
that would
I've
be
got no
wrong.
problem with you. I'm just saying that the information that you're sharing, I'm looking at it, and I'm just thinking, if aliens crashed, they would have had a high amount of technology with them that the Americans would have got hold of, right? And let's be honest, right? You're
Mhm.
saying that it led to a technological leap.
Yeah,
So, what all I'm saying is, look at the technology that happened before then. We already
there was no technology before then.
there was you had TV running and everything, radio, transportation. That's technology, bro. It's all
Okay, okay.
technology. It's
There was
all
no
no, because it's all
computer.
technology, isn't it? It's all techno. It's not like look. I'm not trying to discredit you. I'm just looking at the information you're sharing. First and
No,
foremost,
I understand that, but what I'm trying to say is, in researching, there were no computers. You know, I mean, they
no,
had
there's
like,
computers. There's loads of computers, bro. Ancient computers.
all right,
They found ancient computers, bro.
You know
all
what,
right,
Not
as well?
Apple, not Apple, or yeah, but they found devices that are computers, because all
yeah,
a
well,
computer is something that computes and works things out.
yeah, well,
And
the abacus was considered a computer
yeah,
in some circles. You know what I mean? But what I'm just trying to say is, you're not listening. I'm just trying to say is, there was
I'm
no
listening.
computer
No, I am
company.
listening. That's why I'm asking questions, bro.
Well,
Of course, of
but then
course, I'm
that's the
listening.
question,
If I
though. But
wasn't listening, listen. If I wasn't listening, I wouldn't be able to ask you these questions. That's a bit patronizing, saying I'm not listening. I am listening. That's why I
uh,
wanted to ask you:
But
Is this
Jeff,
something? Is this something that you're saying you've done your research and it
yeah,
happened, or you've done your research and it's possible?
possibilities.
No, let
possibility
Chase
is the
answer.
best I can tell you.
Chase has to answer that.
Mm.
What is it, Chase?
Possibility, the possibility is the best I can tell you because I'm
Thank
not.
you. No,
All I can
thank you,
say.
bro. Thank you. Thank you.
But let me say this anyway about this technology and where it's going as well. This robotic era, and if you look at like where is the future of humanity now, some people they say like they can't have these discussions. They say, you conspiracy theorists and all this one. But if you look at like where things are leading to, it's just going to be like we are basically we going to become more helpless as time goes on. That's how they're creating it. Unless people wake up. But there's too many people asleep. You know what I'm saying? People are relying on political votes on this party or that party and this and that. So, I'm with the philosophy of the nation of gods here about the five percenters. And I don't mean I'm in like total agreement with everything they say, but 5% are in tune on this planet and see through it all. 85% are asleep, and the other 10% of the bloodsuckers sitting on all the wealth and basically sitting on this knowledge, basically. So when we speak about certain things, and I don't just want to say ludicrous things where I've got no drop of evidence. Sometimes the evidence is right in front of us at times where you can see where humanity is going, where the ruling elites are taking us. You know what I'm saying? So when I mentioned about Project Bluebeam before, he was speaking about eventually they're going to project the fake Jesus in the sky, and it's going to speak in every language, and then you're going to get a lot of people fall for it. There's going to be few people, that's a load of BS, you know what I mean, like ourselves, but you're going to get people who are going to believe it from all over the world. And when many people can be deceived, because let's be honest, soon as we touch on certain topics to certain people, especially the majority of people, they'll say, "Ah, you're a conspiracy theorist," rather than like debate the point of why it's not true or why it is true. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is what we get all the time. I mean, I'm open to definitely possibilities of, whether it's it could be extraterrestrials, whether it's spirits, whether it's whatever dimension or whatever you want to
Well,
deal
we're
with.
the extraterrestrials, but what they're doing is they've made us terrestrial by locking off the reality of who we are, why we're here, what we're supposed to be doing. We are the extraterrestrials because all the extraterrestrial means is you're a little bit more than just this world. So Earth is terrestrial, but every now and again, right, we move into other worlds, man, and we're aligned with the cosmos, right?
Yeah,
the
that's
infinite cosmos. So we are the extraterrestrials, but they've turned us into a terrestrial, like a dog. Like you train a dog, you genetically modify the dog, and you train the dog to be obedient. That's what's happened to I.
Yeah, man.
That's a reality. So I'm not against anybody. It's just that if somebody gives me a piece of information and I want to know, okay, this seems pretty real to you. I just want a bit of facts. That's all.
Yeah,
Like if you tell me this happened here, and I want to know, well, where is that in the modern map? Where is it? When did that happen? Who inhabited it? What land? That's all I want to know. That's it. I know there's been mud. I know there's been inundations of mud, but an entire country, nation, or an empire has not gone under mud.
Look how they whitewashed the Moorish Empire, for example. So Europe's greatness come from the Moors, and before the Moors, the Moorish, the time of the Carthaginians, even before that, the original Black Greeks that were there, whether it was the Minoans or even before that, and then even the Etruscans, the black-headed people of Samaria. So it was basically a black world at one time. But there's an interesting thing what I want to go to about, because some things link into some of the stuff you've been speaking about white beings. One theory is, now I'm not religious, but some people speak on the fallen angels, for example, now. And it's supposedly some people place the location in Babylon. I mean, I don't want to try to place the location. So if we look at like all these black planets, it's a black planet. And yet people, they say like white people became, well, they were black one time and melanated people and then became white. Now, was it the fact that the climate where they lived just changed and made them go this color? Or was it the fact that some sort of interference has happened from the outside? And when we say created them, it was actually, here's a good one for you. If you go on YouTube later, and just type in Rudolph, this is a white German guy, and he's basically saying that there's two types of, I think he was saying there's two types of white people, and one of them are non-human. So I don't know if it's down to the clones or whether it's down to something from the spiritual realm. And basically they come here to destroy the planet. Now, I'm not saying that's full evidence, but the evidence is who is ruling this planet and who is ruling it in a way where they're hiding everything. There's starvation all over the place. There's divide all over the place. So in some ways, I think that the mystery is going to eventually come out. And then with this heat wave that's going on, or nature's going to basically have its way with the non-melanated people. It can have its way with all of us, don't get me wrong. But if you just look at nature,
white people are melanated. They just haven't got as much as black people, because if they come from that same line and there's been a mutation, then they are going to have some, but not enough. That's why they have to put sunscreen, man. Whereas I walk out into the sun and absorb it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, here's one for you. We have always had albinos on this planet as well, as far as we know.
Yeah, so, you've got to keep them out the sun. You have to keep them out the sun.
So, there's some Africans in different parts who really don't like albinos. And you know what, there are people, regardless, I don't, but there's some of them who believe that, like, you know, there's some, because they speak on like the former life and then before the afterlife, and some of them believe that the cursed, some superstitious.
People will believe anything, right?
Yeah,
That they're
yeah,
conditioned to believe.
yeah.
It's like training a dog to the point where you throw a stick, and at some point the dog doesn't get it, but then with a few rewards and a few little punishments, the dog soon realizes fetch means chase the stick. So
Mm.
that's it. So I'm thinking, I don't think albinos are cursed,
No,
but
no.
but these beliefs will exist, not among everyone,
Yeah,
but they
yeah,
will exist because
yeah.
people have always operated on having by like the controlling powers that be, regardless of what nation, they don't want the people to have enough knowledge. So they want the people to be blinded. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and have restrictions and limitations. So no one can tell me
Mm.
an albino's cursed, or you've had twins or triplets or quadruplets and you've got to kill them.
Another
This is the
thing,
type.
let
This
me
is the
add,
type of belief. This is where belief can be
yeah,
dangerous.
let me add something to, and
Go
bring
on,
you
Jim.
back in, right? It is
Go
important
on.
now. You know, with the knowledge, what the Africans also had, some of them might have obviously not tried to hurt the albinos, but help them by pushing them into a cold climate. Because they basically seen that, oh, look at the sun, you know, how they're affecting it. So they could have got brought to Europe. Could have got brought into the colder climates because, and it'd be better for themselves, to be honest, to be in these colder climates because the sun is, it's not like working for them, is it? So there's many different aspects of it. Some can be they thought they were cursed. Some people thought, you know what, let's move them into a colder environment. So there's many different things because you know, at the end of the day, we don't. There might be more albinos on this planet than what we know. You know, in the ancient world, I know they have the story
Tribes
of
of albinos.
you could have been that. This is what I'm saying, man. And the only reason why we're not seeing this today, but what happened in the ancient world is almost erased today. We've got fragments of it still left.
And I don't want to say it in this way, but it is a bit of a birth defect in the sense of most albinos they don't have longevity, and their
Mm,
immune system will be lower, and they won't be able to assimilate the sun, and they tend to get a bit sick anyway. And I
yeah,
think people who have all of that need to be cared for and treated, not fucking
definitely.
killed.
So like I say,
Sorry,
when
sorry, bro.
people left Africa and
Yeah.
the ones that moved into colder climates, you never know, they could have been albinos. I mean, we have to believe that what we
They
got
could
told.
have, no, they could have, but like the thing what I'm seeing is an albino, right, generally tends to look like have those Africanoid features. And I
Mm,
haven't seen albinos in Ethiopia.
no,
It's interesting, but I've never seen albinos in Ethiopia. But I've seen them in like West and Central and South, right? Not a lot, not a lot. It's like,
Tanzania, some Tanzania.
but I've not seen any in Tanzania,
Okay.
but I'm sure there probably
Mm,
is. But I just not seen them. But what I'm saying is that it's not a regular occurrence as such. The percentage must be pretty low,
mm,
right? And I suppose, like you say, if the belief is fostered upon people who haven't been able or allowed to develop and grow and have their own ideas and their own chakras spinning, right?
mm.
I because of where I am now and healthcare, I'll be more looking towards treatment and care. Do you know what I mean? And that saying of come out of the sun would be for the albinos because being in the sun for too long would have an adverse effect
Yeah.
because they haven't got the protection that you know what I mean that we have.
Because you got images there of people in China, northern China, and you've got
Yeah,
albinoism. You've got people in India got it as well. You've got
yeah.
it's not
Because I've
only
seen
just in
you know
Africa.
if
Do
you
you know
go
what I
to
mean?
China, if you see white people who are albinos,
Yeah, that's what I'm
right?
saying.
And so therefore, it's a very complex situation, isn't it? It's a mutation of a form,
Yeah,
right? Where the pigmentation, right? It's not totally gone, but it's like white people who aren't albinos have got less pigmentation,
yeah.
melanin than other people, right? Albinos have
Well,
even got less.
Mm,
So
Well,
it's
I
a
put up
form
I
of
put
a
up a
mutation,
video.
you know.
mm.
Well, I put up a video about the black albinos, where they have blonde hair and blue eyes and stuff like that. I just can't remember where
You're not
the
the
place was.
you're not dealing with the people who have natural blonde hair, like the people in some parts of Solomon Islands in the Pacific, because some of them are just natural. It's not even albinos, and they just have blonde afros. You're
No,
talking.
well, I mean, these kids had straight hair, but also too is they also had the facial look of Aborigines.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I don't think they're not albinos, though. That's just like
it's just the fact that the trait of the blonde and blue eyed is an
no,
albino
no,
trait, isn't
no,
it?
not necessarily. And
All right. Well, okay.
I spoke to some people out in the Pacific about that because I was wondering now about the blonde hair, the afros that some of them got, and he said it's just basically some of them have lived in the highlands and they've lived in certain places where they've just got used to it and adapted to that. And what we got to remember is everyone come from Africa. Africa is the most diverse place on this planet.
Mm.
Diversity was already there, whether you had afro, straight hair, curly hair, albinoism, the most darkest person to looking like the Sam Bushman, to the most narrowest features in certain parts, to the most thickest lips, to everything, tall, small, everything. It's so diverse, Africa. The
Yeah,
Europeans like to believe that they were the most diverse people with the red hair, blonde hair, brown hair. Africans are the most diverse on the planet, and
yeah,
everything all began there. So even when they say blue eyes started in this part of Europe, there's certain parts of Africa where you can see them on the internet where they got dark
yeah.
skin with blue eyes. Some of them even have like all types of funny color hair without
But it's
dyeing it.
interesting. It's interesting because this is a fact now.
Mm,
You can do your own research on this. As I mentioned earlier, as we know, white people, the modern European, has only been around for like no more than 10,000 years, probably less. And the
Yeah.
original inhabitants of Europe were dark skinned, black skinned, and some of them had blue eyes.
yeah,
So the
Mhm.
blue eyes come from I and I.
yeah.
It's always been there. You
That's
know
it,
what I mean?
man.
Like maybe at some point everyone had brown eyes, and from the brown eyes you've got green eyes, blue eyes, and all these. You know what I mean? But
Mm,
we have that. You already said Africa is the most diverse place, yeah, for species, for human beings, for
everything.
land,
Yeah.
for all resources, everything. The most diverse place, and
Mm,
everything come from Africa. So, like the
Mhm.
blue eyes come from the African before the first white
exactly.
man stood up.
Yeah.
Well, Jen, let me bring up a different topic in the sense where, um, it's interesting about how the Greeks, like we said, were Etruscans, right? They probably were dark-skinned Greeks as well, back all the way back to the, Alexandria times. When did these people decide to think they could take over the world? Yeah, I mean, when did they decide that they
Well, the
were?
Greeks.
Oh,
Here's what we got to
wait, wait,
deal
wait,
with.
wait, wait, wait. Let me finish my
I
question,
know where
buddy.
you. No, I know where you're going with it. But it
No.
goes. It goes back to the steppe nomads.
Okay, all right, thanks. But that's not what I was talking about. So basically what I'm trying to say is one, you could say it goes back to the steppe nomads, and that's great, right? But what I was trying to bring up is that certain white philosophers or teachers, don't know their names, have stated how whiteness wasn't a thing until like around 15, 1600s.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
that ties into a lot.
Yeah, yeah. But that's
but like so
now
basically
that's a very recent thing. What you're speaking
it,
on.
it, it is a recent thing. But what I'm trying to tell
Yeah.
you is what they were trying to say was everybody was based on culture, like and lands where they were from. So, like they were either Greek or they were Italian, they were Polish, and they were proud of that heritage. And and that started to get wiped away when Ellis Island came about and they immigrated to America. But like the point is that nobody thought about them as being separatists, as like you're white and they're black and we're better than, even
It
though,
was created by the church, the Roman Catholic Church, bro.
yeah, I heard that.
Because what you're saying is true. People weren't defined by skin color. People were
Yeah,
defined by culture and national where they come from. It wasn't
yeah,
down to skin color. And
Yeah,
at some point, they brought in this whole race thing, right? And then it coincided with Europeans colonizing the world, which James has already mentioned on previous podcasts. The Iceman Cometh, which was
mm,
written by, was it Michael Bradley, the
yeah,
white dude?
yeah.
He was just coming with the truth, talking about scarcity of food and expansion and all that. And it's very much the modus operandi of our lighter skinned cousins, you know.
Yeah, let me tell you about the steppe nomads then. Yeah, right. So when we look at like why in with the archaeology and anthropological studies, why are they finding black people in Ireland? Oh, like even like 5,000 years ago, not even like 10, not even 20. We don't even need to go that far. We already know they were black back then. So where did these Europeans come from? Why they found out that the people like Cheddar Man are the same type of people who built Stonehenge, which was about 4,000 years ago. So the steppe nomads, they're not from the part of Europe that they appear to be from. So in England, was a lot of black folks there, Ireland, Scotland, they're all there anyway. As we know, Greece and Italy, the Etruscans. So if you heard about the Aryan invasion, yeah, which they come from Central Asia and they invaded India, 1500 BC. This is the first what we know about racism. Like when we say, but not racism, the scientific racism that come later. What you're talking about as well. The Aryan invasion, when they took the worship of Vishnu, what the Indians already had, and they basically took little bits of that and created the Hindu caste system, the Sanskrit language, that's Indo-European. So they matched everything up, these linguistics of like the oldest language ain't Sanskrit. It'd be like Tamil, some sort of Dravidian linked or something like that. So the Sanskrit is an Indo-European language. It's linked to Europe. But most of these, anyway, back to what you were saying about the Etruscans and the Greeks and all that, yeah. These same people who invaded India are the same nomadic people that would invade Greece later. And then, because this is important to know, they went into northern China as well. So if you look in Chinese sources, you can find these type of people. How they describe is a Turkic nomadic people. And when I say Turkic, don't think of someone just from Turkey. You've got like the people called there's a group called the Scythians. And you should check all this out, by the way, what I'm saying. If you look at the Scythians, they come from the area of Ukraine. They domesticated the horse.
Yeah,
And the
yeah, yeah.
steppes are running from Mongolia all the way to Hungary. That's the
This is
steppes.
like Attila the Hun and these people.
Yeah.
They
He comes
moved into
later and
Europe.
he's related to those
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Scythians.
yeah.
He's just the later brothers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, so we get told like, and the Huns would be some sort of Chinese, Mongolian. They were Indo-Europeans
Yeah, yeah.
that have impacted all these places, and they were just going from one place to another place on horses, pillaging, raping, conquering, and stealing the knowledge, and then using it against us, basically. And all these things, if you study Asia, and then later on when these people come into Africa, like places like Egypt, Libya, Morocco, it's the same thing. So if you understand Black Asia being overrun or Black Europe being overrun, it's only a matter of time till they come to the motherland Africa. Because they would have to swarm through Europe to do what they did and swarm through Asia in order to even get to Africa. You know what I
yeah. But
mean?
this is kind of like what I'm trying to say is that like we talked last time about that war, Adwa War, where King Menelik defeated the Irish, and then there was also the Queen Nzinga, who took out Greeks, soldiers and battalions and stuff. There was also, you know, damn, what was the other one? But like basically, I'm just trying to understand, when did these people turn white? You know, it's like, or when did they think that because, oh, Benin, I was also thinking about Benin, you know, where they talk about there was like four white colonizers who went into Benin and saw the success and the creation of everything, you know, from like the water irrigation to the lamps and all that, street lamps and all that. That's when they decided that they needed to burn the place down. You know, so you either had the Africans either defeat their white counterparts, or when did they become white counterparts? That's what I
They
was.
say, well, they say Diop, right? Because remember, Diop he was a brilliant teacher, but he was dealing with old technology. So Diop put them about 10,000 or a bit over years, yeah. But then it's come down now. Researchers say about 6,000 years ago, that's when people actually became white. And he figured that out because they were looking at the Britons 6,000 years ago or before, and they were all like melanated people and quite heavily melanated. Not be jet black, but like
Wasn't the Vikings white?
yeah, but the Vikings is more of a modern thing, though. You're talking about like the times of like in the last 1,000 years or like 1,200 years. But the Vikings, there was some black Vikings as well.
Well, obviously,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
because remember when them this is you know what it is
Eric the Black.
it's the big piece of history that they've left out, and that is the Moorish Empire. They
yeah.
don't mind speaking about the Arabs. Oh, they were Arabs, they were Turkish. Oh, they were only Muslims and blah blah blah. But the,
Yeah.
but basically, when you look at the word more, just look at the word more. What's it mean? Black. When I say black, dark, scorched before the black was said. So just people dark, scorched, had been coming in and being into Europe heavily for the last thousands and thousands of years, as far as we know, Europe of their inhabitants. You know what I'm saying? And then these people have come out of like the Caucasus Mountains, Ukraine, Russia, Central Asia, and they've impacted. They've gone east, west, and then they've moved into south. They've conquered they've conquered the Mongolians. That's why the Mongolians end up going crazy. Because you know, like the Eskimos and that, yeah, they're not like a crazy type of people. The Eskimos, like people, they might appear just because they live in the northern part of the world and they're in ice. They're actually quite peaceful people, them, and they've got access to fresh fish, which kept their pigmentation from going actually pure white. Because you got some some tan ones, and there was anthropological studies that were done on it. You can watch it. Lindsay Roberts or something her name was. Anyway, he was an anthropologist. She was asking why these Eskimos haven't turned white with them being in the ice, and he was explaining because they got access to like fresh fish and certain things that kept the melanin up a bit. So this woman was going around all the world, and she was asking, "How come these people are different colors to these people and all that one?" It's interesting. So, like I
Yeah,
say, we got to just look at migration. And migration, we are just being told a load of lies,
yeah,
basically. And people are ashamed to admit that they didn't have a civilization. So people will go in, steal your civilization, claim it to own, and use your own knowledge and your wisdom against you.
Mhm.
And we've been foolish enough to put our trust into the wrong people. Look how many
yeah,
times, even Sumer, for example, there was a group called the Gutia people, and this was the first black invasion that we know recorded, like one of the major black civilization taken over the black-headed people that were in Sumer, the Gutia people. You can go on YouTube, check the videos out when they first invade Sumeria. So that's the fall. After that, the next fall is India and Persia. India is the aliens. Then they move along to northern China and start conquering that because there's a lot of dark-skinned Chinese. And then
mhm,
so Diop now let me match this up with scientific evidence now. Diop is one of the few researchers I've came across, yeah, black or white, and he explains the Chinese are a mixture of black and white. What other anthropological studies say that? No, I don't hear no one say that. Then he says that the Indians are a mixture of yellow, meaning Mongolian type, yeah, and in a mixture of Indo-European from the invaders and also indigenous black people. This is why you got to read Diop's books, you know, because there's no researchers like him. I'm telling you, man, he's worth investing into. The only thing that was difficult is Diop didn't have the technology back then to realize how old the Ice Age was, how old the Caucasian was, because he didn't have the resources. But what he had at the time, he was able to figure out exactly what each person had in them. So Diop, I'd advise you go to the works of Diop. I've got like about
Name
3 or 4
some
books.
James. Name some books for the listeners.
Civilization or Barbarism, African Civilization, Myth or Reality, and then there's another one. I've actually got them all there. I've got them all there on my USB. I'll have to send them to your email. Anyone's got, it's just much easier because they're on my computer. So
nice.
What I'll do, send me your.
We might need to look at. I've got a few Diop books myself, but we might have to, as an idea for future podcast. Break a book down. You know, like have a theme where we look at the book. Share some insights from the book. You know.
And then another brother that was around a little bit after Diop, but he worked
Chancellor
with Diop.
Williams.
He's a little bit after a guy called Philo Pabenga. From the Congo or somewhere. He's the one who was dealing with the Niger Congo speakers, saying the ancient Egyptians spoke in Niger Congo.
The language, the source of the language.
Where we get told Afro-Asiatic or we get told this Menionetta was something different. So, like I say, we've got to dig into our researchers are there, but we've got to know who we're focusing on. Chancellor Williams, another brilliant researcher.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I'd say Diop has to be the number one because.
Well, he was a trailblazer, isn't
he? He's just like I say, I've got to give it up to that brother. And what he dealt with at that time, he is the number one. I mean, I love Runoko Rashidi, brilliant brother, rest in peace. The global African presence, where he impacted things on a different level, where he was in every museum, he was in every place around the world, researching, speaking to people. You know what I'm saying? And then obviously I've being inspired by him, started getting out to these places and trying to do as much research and all that, connecting with the indigenous, you know what I'm saying?
What about Ivan Setimer?
Who?
Ivan Van Sertima.
So Van Sertima was before Runoko, and he mentored Runoko. Now, Van Sertima was brilliant with his studies, but what it was, when Runoko came, he actually said, he has never been to Asia. And when he connected with Runoko can now give a primary research analysis. Because you can write about something if you haven't been, study it, but it is always better with the primary research. And then also, Van Sertima, who's speaking on the Olmecs, he excavated not every single one of them, because there's about 17 Olmec heads. He might have excavated maybe 8, 9, 10, or whatever. But Runoko was able to excavate them all. So it's just basically the people who come before us, we need to keep pushing it more and digging. And there's more of us now who've got access to this knowledge to be example now. If we got a bunch of brothers together and sisters and all that, and then we created something a bit similar to the Return Project, but a little bit different, where we just said, you know what? We're going to organize a group of people. We're going to go into Egypt. We're going to go to Egypt, for example. We're going. Here's what we're going to do this day. We're going to go into the temples this day, Luxor. We're going to Cairo, and then even other things let's go and visit these indigenous people in Egypt, in Aswan. We must go to Aswan, Elephantine Island. We must go into the rainforest, into South America. We must go and check the indigenous people of Asia. These type of things, if we do this on our own thing, make our own type of documentaries, films, take it to another level, and it's all us. It's not BBC trying to finance us, and then they're going to edit, cut. I'm telling you, man, this is... Because if I would have done certain things, I wish... If there was anything I wish I had, I wish I had a cameraman with me to do some of these things I did. Because sometimes I've been in places by myself and I've got to hold the camera and camera myself talking to people. You know what I mean? I wish I had someone there doing
So as a
documentation.
cameraman.
Yeah, and even people there who were documenting also, because sometimes I'll be in a place and I'm trying to do the work like 10 people. I'm not too bad by myself. Do you know what I mean? First of all, I'm about to find places by myself where they haven't done it through the tour operator because I'm not paying them X amounts. So I've even just took a 7 hour bus ride in Thailand, 2 different buses, didn't even know where I was going, and they had to communicate with people on the bus, Buddhists, Muslims, and other Thai people. Not one of them were talking to each other on the bus. The minute I showed these pictures on my phone saying these are the people who want to see the Mani tribe, the whole bus is talking. So it's first of all, it's like I created a big massive communication on the bus. You know, all on the phone to the people. How can this brother basically go visit these people? And they tell me they've never even been in there. What do you do coming to their country? Showing them stuff that you're exposing them in their own country to the original peoples.
You know?
So when I got off the last bus
Great
now,
work, bro.
so when I got off the last bus now in south of Thailand, I had these Muslims telling me, you know what, we can't just let you just like go in this rainforest by yourself. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna introduce you to someone like you're gonna stay in some sort of like a hut that's local by. And then I'm like, oh, I appreciate that because I really don't know where I'm going. You know what I'm saying? Because the bus don't take you into the jungle; it just takes you to the last bus stop,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
the
yeah.
jungle could be like 20,
Yeah,
30 minutes away.
yeah.
So what they did, they found out you got a lot of hitchhikers in south of Thailand where they pick it up for free. You know what I'm saying? So they just put the hand out to a car and then said, take him into this area where it's a bit foresty and you can pay £10 to stay there, whatever. Goes in there now, and then they're basically gonna they found a driver, and the driver took me in the nighttime. Because it's the nighttime, you have to go through, the ranger. You can't just go in there because they would blast you with the blow darts and stuff, you know what I'm saying? So basically, it's all steps when you're not doing it through the tour this way, basically, you know what I mean? So this is why it'd be good to get like a bunch of people together and do it all properly, man. And this is the important thing, man, where one person can do so much, but as a group, you can get a lot done, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we need to create, definitely. You guys still there?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
had
man.
to just do something. I'm here,
Oh,
bro.
cool. Oh, cool, man. So
No,
basically,
I had to do something, bro.
yeah, man.
I'm
It's all about communication, man. And you can get a bunch of people to go to Spain. Oh, let's all go to Spain. It's hard to even get a bunch of people
It's
to come to
conditioning,
Africa.
isn't it? No,
You
but
can't
it's
get,
conditioning. That's what we're talking about.
yeah,
We're talking about conditioning where we've been inculcated to not have pride of ourself, not look for our
Yeah.
true self. So you'll
yeah,
find that when people are planning a holiday, they'll say, "Oh, let's go here, let's go there." They're not gonna go to Africa, and if they do, it'll be
mm,
North Africa. They
yeah,
ain't
Yeah.
gonna go. Yeah, let's be
yeah.
honest.
That's right, man.
They
That's
say
why,
just been to Morocco, la, but
yeah.
they
Yeah.
ain't gonna go anywhere
I've
else.
been
You
to
know?
Morocco and Marrakesh myself,
Yeah,
so I know what you mean.
yeah, I've been there too, bro.
No,
Yeah,
but I'm just saying I agree with you. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
mhm.
it's
yeah.
not until I
It's
met
true.
James that I actually want to see other places like Mali and the Congo and all of that other kind of stuff. So I do want to see them now, but I didn't care about them before.
You know what, right? This is why I was saying, like, it'd be good to like arrange a group holiday. You know what I mean? Maybe you got to do it in advance and basically plan. You've just planned the whole thing out because going with a group, everyone will feel much safer anyway if they've never really traveled to these places and that. And then we just do it all there, man. We can go to the museums, we can go into the villages,
Hmm.
go and live with some tribes, go and get some indigenous knowledge,
Yes.
and go and
I thought he was
see.
gonna say indigenous pussy then. Forgive me, forgive me.
Yeah, man. So that's what I'm saying, man. Go and explore, man. Do you know what I mean? And you got some people who need to be taken there. I mean, we're just the type of people, Raz, yourself, we just take
Yeah,
ourselves there, but there's still other people that need that encouragement. So maybe
I know.
you've got to arrange something for them to feel safe. And then once they get there, they'll be back there. Once you see, oh, you know what was all the fuss about? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, bro.
The
No, I
return
hear you.
project is a bit different because now we're trying to get fundraising where if we just do this ourselves, put your own money into something, then it always gets done. Sometimes
True.
funding, you could be going on for years and then it still doesn't get done. So I like to say, everyone just put a deposit down from like, you can do like 11 months, you can book in 11 months in advance. Deposit down if you want to go to Africa, if you want to go into the rainforest in Asia and meet these peoples. Plan it all in advance and we'll have it all locked down, man. Maybe you don't need loads of people, but you can just
man.
get
A small party.
a small party, man.
Honestly,
that's how we should be doing it, man. Fundraising takes too
true.
long. Unless you can
true.
get the funding.
I know.
Not everyone can get access to that, is it?
Listen, it's been an interesting podcast, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I think we've had a very good exchange. I am gonna have to move on.
Yeah, man.
Now, though.
Well, it's
right.
It's getting late anyway.
What happened to our brother Reverend?
His reception just wiped out. Yeah, because on the road, wherever he was, it just froze. Camera froze, man. Any last word, Chase, before we go?
Hold on, Ross. Hold on.
So this is what we need to do, man. We need to arrange.
I'm here, bro.
And connect.
There's a few things to do.
Connect to some like-minded people. Know what? And when it comes to a group, the right group, not like people who are just going to be getting drunk and acting stupid in places, or
of course,
people who are ignorant towards the culture. This is what people need to be doing, man. This is Pan-Africanism. You know what I'm saying? It'd help if it was a study group and we did it that way. You know what I'm saying? But Liverpool's hard work, man. I'm telling you.
It is. I know it is.
It's not no easy work, but you know what I mean. So
it's not easy at all.
I mean, the younger generation, they catch on to things quick, but they're too stuck to the phones. A lot of them, and but maybe sometimes people have got to see elders coming together in order for them to come together. Because if they see the elders are kind of like not as unified, then you're not being like the example to the younger youth.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what when you said, oh, Liverpool, it is an issue where a lot of the elders haven't been the example they could have been. Not all of them, but I'm saying a lot. And I think in many ways, a lot of the younger youth have been caught up in entrapment because of that.
Yeah.
Because there was no one there to say, boy, stay on the right side, you know what I mean? Or play it safe, yeah? Don't throw your life away. There wasn't enough of that, you see. So, because it's a small city as well.
Yeah.
And we've been through our own traumas there, man. A lot of traumas there. So, Brett, I'm going to have to go. So we're going to talk a little more, yeah?
Yeah, man.
Is Chase...
I don't know what he's doing. He's in the hospital, but I don't know if he's getting seen to. But Chase, we're going to wrap this up anyway. And, with the times, we've done like near enough 2 hours, 2.5 hours or something. So, this James Bone discovering dedicated to original peoples. Give thanks. And sorry we lost Drrevren. And
yeah, man.
The other guest who couldn't make it, but peace Chase and peace Raz.
Well, what it was, the podcast coincided with the Brazil-Norway game, and Norway are winning 2-0 with like not much left. Brazil is shite anyway. Brazil have lost all discipline.
I didn't realise football was on, man.
Bunch of idiots, bro. World Cup, innit?
Yeah,
I'm not even interested in the World Cup.
I don't even watch football, to be honest.
I do, but I'm just not interested in the whole shebang, bro. I'm not interested.
I just like to say these last words. Remember, we were looking to do something to go into Rwanda. Now, I think we should keep these ideas open, but look at it from a realistic point of view that it gets done. One time, I don't know when you're going back, or maybe at a certain time when you're going to be there, we arrange like a few people, well, not by funding, just by everybody pay their own fare, pay it in advance if they want to deposit, and then you out there, ins and outs of where to go, where to see what, who to speak to, and we come out there. That could be a starting point, and then
absolutely, bro.
once people do that once, we arrange these trips every year or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds good, man.
And I think
We're gonna have
that's
to talk about it, man.
we'll talk about it though anyway. We'll talk about that anyway.
Definitely.
But
Because remember that's overdue because
yeah,
that was going to happen, and then that COVID nonsense happened, didn't it? Remember?
yeah,
You get
yeah,
the
that's
ticket.
right. Yeah.
You even got the ticket, didn't you?
No, oh yeah, but that was for me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was booking.
Remember?
Yeah, yeah. I was booking it myself to get out there.
Yeah,
you
man.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
So
sometimes
we'll
we have to
we'll
put
do
our
it.
own money into things in order to get things done. And
Sure.
sometimes when we rely on funding, it's all good, but make sure you have your backup if that don't work. That you can just be
It's
able to.
true. But
Black
bro, I've got
business.
to go. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
man.
go and I'll check you a little more, yeah?
Yeah, man. You take it easy, Raz.
Give thanks.
I'm gonna wrap it up now anyway.
Give
Peace
thanks,
anyway.
bro.
Yeah,
Peace
man.
and love, bro, every time.
Bless.
Ciao,
Peace.
bro. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah, man.